welcome back to Director's Cut. Today we're actually talking about community. Another great topic. We have so many great topics. So we're going to just dive right in. What does community mean to you?
That's a good question. Community it's so funny because I think that's something that I think recently a lot of people are trying to decide what that means, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I've actually done a little research where I've been asking a lot of questions in groups or in social media, and really it's the response I'm getting and kind of I identify with the definition of is, you know, it's a collective or a gathering of people with same interests, same ideals, same passion, same heart, whatever that is that draws people together, that creates that community. And of course, that's a smaller community that can make up, you know, a larger whole. Mm-hmm. But I think it really is, when you get down to the crux of it, you know, we live in a community, but we don't necessarily, you know, engage in that full community. When we actually take ownership and we connect and we're actually developing relationships, that's when that community, I think, begins to take hold.
Mm-hmm. And I think people are starting to realize that we need to, even just the community we live in. And I live in a small town. Well, it was a small town. It's a little bigger now.
Quickly growing.
Sadly, because everybody wanted the community. And if you talk to all the people that have moved into this town over the last 10 years, that is we wanted the small town community. And I think, as you said, there's some ownership and there's some work to that. And that doesn't mean you drop your kids off at the ballpark and you leave. Because guess what? Those of us who built the community, our kids aren't at the ballpark anymore. Somebody else has to bring that forward. So
it's good. It kind of almost makes me think even of the community of family and how it just seems like for my family, there used to be that maternal glue. You know, my Nana was that on one side, my grandma was that on the other side. And there is kind of just an assumption that the next generation is just going to take it on. But we're not. At least in my family, we're not taking that on. So it does take intention to create, even within a family, you know, which we think is a given, but it takes intention.
And I think that there's so many different kinds of community. So, and I think we'll kind of talk about that as we go along, but just asking, like, what is community to me, right? So I would say people that you're supporting and support you. That's that you kind of do life with, whether it's just on Sunday or if it's, you know, at the ballpark, just at the ball times, but you interact with these people in a community. So it's often based around an interest or a goal or a season. It can be just for that, or it can be a longer community that, like I'd say my family in a way is community. They're family, but they're community. I hang with them. I do life with them. I interact and share and support.
And there's work and responsibility to make it work. And I think that's kind of, to me, not to take it on the negative really, but I think that's my frustration is that there's so many that I have interacted with that want that community but don't want to put the time in. Well, if you're not going to be there and if you're not going to be part of whatever it is that has drawn us all together,
then you're not part of the
community.
You're not part of the
community. We want we want you there. Don't get me wrong.
That seems like a whole other topic too, because as you say that, I think about my church communities that I've been a part of, and there's always that thing of like, oh, well, 20% of the people do 80% of the work.
Yeah.
And that's definitely, but we won't go into that today because that's a totally
another
topic. But that does bring to mind, though, what is important to you in community?
I think support is important, and support me in the goals or my intentions of what I want to do. I mean, if it doesn't, I mean, there's a large area of community that can be just encompass so many things, but like what I purposely want to put myself into in those communities and what I can get from those communities just to support me so that I can support them. So
Yeah,
I think that's important.
Right along with that, for me, it's not just what I can get, and I hear you saying this too, it's also what I can give. What kind of value can I give? And if I feel like I can give a value within a community, then I'm more likely to stay and be a part and participate, whereas if I don't feel that way, for me, this is just for me, that I'm not gonna be there. I just won't. I won't be a part of it.
I think that's one of the things, as the kids get older and you're no longer at the baseball field every weekend and stuff, that community changes and you find the ones where, like you said, 80%, 20%, that kind of thing. But to me, it's acceptance, and it is letting me be that next person, letting me have somewhere where I can put my passion and my energy, and kind of, like you said, what can I give to somebody too?
So when we show up for community, we're opening ourselves up to be friendly, to hear their stories, to share our stories, to be part of whatever the work is to be done, to be part of the goal or mission of what's happening.
Yeah.
It's also a form of vulnerability, though, too, allowing ourselves to be open to sharing our thoughts to them.
It's almost like we're talking to a community right now.
Really? Community of G.A.L.S?
Well, one of the things for me with I think it sticks out, and I've heard this, you hear this in business a lot, but I think it definitely applies to community, is like surrounding yourself by the people that you want, that represent and are what you want to become. So surrounding yourself by people that you resonate with and are also going to, help you, rise up, and lift you up in a positive way. And that can be, I think, applied in so many different arenas. It's not just business. It's not just life. It can be any form of community where, you're coming together and it's like, no man left behind type of thing. And I think that's the mentality. And for me, that's really important, because if you're in a community, but you feel like you're the one always doing all the work, or that you're like, hey, help. And you're like, nothing. Yeah. Okay, I'm on my own here. You're not in a community, and that's really like the big red flag of like, okay, that's not probably where you need to spend your time and your efforts.
It's not the big you, big me, little you type of thing. It's like everyone's the same and everyone's working for the same type of goals or of that. So I think it's super important.
And I think too, people might arrive at community and not be ready to jump in. And I think I can think of situations where I've been the wallflower of community, but, and I think like, well, I didn't get a lot out of that. Oh, I didn't put in a lot. So, they're not going to feel it. But if we can, the newcomers or someone just like not knowing how to interact, if we can encourage them, how can you be part of this? Or, maybe it's too big and loud, but we can sit and have coffee and, connect you in a different way, or I don't know.
And there's options.
Reach out.
And I actually think for me, this is a part of designing your life, because the community that you build around you can help you, like Amanda said, to rise up. And whatever that is, it doesn't have to be business. It can be your marriage, your parenting, your, softball games. I'm sure you guys talked shop about kids.
I have an amazing, we call it our village. And we all met on the sidelines, 2nd grade football.
Yeah.
And we watched our kids play all the way through high school. And our kids are not all necessarily still friends. They don't all hang out and they're not all playing football and stuff. But boy, if we need something, and if we kind of laugh, maybe we should just go sit by the football field. just to meet you at the field. We'll meet you there.
Right.
But the amount of time, and that is one of the things to me, is that they brought out, not only did they bring out the best in me, like what you were talking about, but they also, it is that support. It is that I'm not going to make it. Can you take my kid home? It is that, oh my gosh, I just had the worst fight with my husband. And you have those opportunities to talk without that judgment, that instant. It's a safe space.
Which I think is so good. So when G.A.L.S began, so much of what I was going through as a work from home coach and entrepreneur was a feeling of loneliness. Everything was based around business, and that's fine. But I even talked to a few other entrepreneurs who said, I don't have friends I go do stuff with. And I thought, we have to fix this. This is like we can't have all these women. I specifically obviously love working with women, but we can't have all these women who are just feeling lonely and like all they do is business. And so for me, one of the big values that I have for community is a safe space. But even further than that, was I wanted a group of women too that I knew if they were having a conversation about me behind my back, I could trust that it was going to be a positive one or a solutions-based conversation.
And it would be real.
Yeah. But I knew that, like, especially if it was something that they needed to work on with me, that other person they're talking to is going to point them in the direction of talking to me. Or it's going to be about how awesome Mariah is. And I feel like that is something I value about our community.
To say how awesome she is.
Awesome.
Sorry.
No, it's good. And I feel like that's something we talked about a lot as directors, and it's a community that we're trying to form. And so I think, like, when I talk about design your life, that was something I wanted and needed. So I really value real women. Yeah. Okay.
We've talked in other episodes about self-care and things like that. And it was actually even, as the directors, we've gone on retreats and things, and just to make our plans and so forth. And my husband always goes, well, why don't you guys just have a meeting? And I go, oh, it's not that. It's not even, yes, we could sit down. We could do it on Zoom. We could be fine. But
we do have meetings.
We do. We do.
Yeah.
But there is something about that. And maybe that's just because this is what I need for my community. It's the energy you get from each other. I mean, it does not matter if nothing gets done. So on the last retreat, my husband's like, go. He goes, I can tell there's an energy to it. You need that time. And it's true. And I think there's a lot of women that need that don't recognize it.
Yeah, I think women are definitely different in that. I mean, not that men can't have that same attribute. There are men who they need to energize through social and
Poker
usually
nights and
yeah,
football
exactly. Right. Grunting. Whereas I think women, there is. I mean, it kind of goes back to the roots of living in, small tribal communities or small communities where, all the men went out to hunt and then the women were in, gathering and taking care of the kids. And when you do that and you've got your village, it's, that whole sense of like, it takes a village. That's rooted, I think, in women. It does. It takes a village, because who's watching out for, that kid, where's parents, or whatever. Because, and it's a lot of times it's not in judgment. It's just you see a child or someone or don't know, and you're like, oh, we need to figure this out. We need to do something. And also just the energy that I think we get from each other.
The hugs.
And I think, you talk about being super social. You're social. You like that. And I'm kind of the opposite, where I can take so much social and then it's like I'm full. But it feeds both sides of it, which is, I think, also kind of impressive to me. If you get the right group of people, you will feed both sides.
Yeah, I think that's really key, even with, like, again, I can't unsee personality profiles, but I do think for women, we actually, no matter what our personality is, we do actually need that. We need it for different reasons, and we need it in different amounts, but we do need it. Like, it's actually, I think it feeds us. It feeds our souls.
I know we talked about it. At least I think we talked about the very first director's cut, but who else is going to tell you what to do with your chin hair?
I talk about that a lot.
But it's true, right? I mean, your mother's way of doing things probably isn't the only way. Let me rephrase that. It is not the only way.
It's not.
But you learn and you feed off of each other, and you can, we've even had conversations about, oh God, am I a bad mom? Or, these kinds of things. You need somebody that can easily unpack that with you. So maybe you don't have an answer. We're not all,
we don't have it all together.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's a sounding board, because then it goes back to what I was saying, defining it. It's a collective of people who have something in common. And in that collective, you are growing and sharing life experience, sharing life together. Life is messy. It's not always perfect. But yeah, so, you know, you come and you share, like you said, with my kids or my spouse, and we can say, well, you're asking for advice, right? Yes, I'm asking for advice. And so you give advice and you can say, well, this is what I did, or this is what I am hearing. And you can, as a community, solve problems. You know, I mean, I think it does translate beyond just like the smaller communities. That's our hopes for our larger, you know, living community, global community, is that can happen. But it happens in the small communities. That's what makes the impact and the ripple through the larger communities, as the smaller communities are coming together to make change.
When we've talked about things you can control and can't control, if you're folk, you know, you can start small and then you can build that. So I think that is another key factor with community.
And sometimes one community can't meet all your needs.
Right.
So, you know, just the same way my husband cannot meet all my needs. I need my girlfriends and I need my, you know.
Right.
So we've got our church
Sometimes
communities and
just-
our work community.
Yeah, and there's sometimes just voicing it out. I mean, because if it's your true community, or it's a smaller community of people or women that you are safe in, it's okay to just say what you want to say, because sometimes we can bottle things up or think or make assumptions of what other people might think, and just being able to talk about it, or just talk and listen and not even have a response.
I think you're right, because we can isolate. And I think that's a great reason to talk about this last question. So we're going to wrap up. But I think it's so important because I've talked to so many women, and I'm sure you guys have too, that have said, well, I don't really need friends, or I don't need to be away from my family, or I don't
have time
For that.
And of course, we have to have balance, right? But let's talk about why community, especially with like-minded women, is so important.
I think it feeds my soul. Yeah, it helps me grow. And yeah.
It's energizing. There's something about you're not alone. You're not.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
You're not on an island by yourself. You're not trying to, you know, as women, we take a lot on. And again, not to say that men don't.
Right.
As moms, we add more to our plates. And for some reason, we just had this conversation, you know, sorry, no matter what it is our kids do, they don't go, well, what about with dad? It's always, what about with mom? So, you know, we take on a lot more, and having other people I mean, the fact that you're laughing at that is because you know, you know, it is different. It is, you know.
Yeah, there's a gal on like social media that had put together, you know, she's one of the content creators, and was created a song and was like, you know, got up at 5 a.m. and cleaned the puke and this and that and that and this. And then we went to the park, and then all the people were saying to my husband, you're such a good
great
dad.
Yes.
And that, you know, we want that. We want our kids to have great dads.
Yes.
And there are a lot of dads out there that are in the trenches
Yes.
too.
Yes.
But how often do we get,
You're just such
you're
a great
such a good mom.
Yes.
You know what? You do in the right community. And that's
True.
the
True.
key.
Yeah.
That-
Community.
That is one of the things that you do.
Because
You
we
bring
do
that.
We do.
Your community should feed you.
It brings you encouragement
Yeah.
and support.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then if it's like G.A.L.S, it brings you some fun. too.
And
Yeah.
fun.
Let's do
Fun
it. Let's
and
talk
fun.
gals.
And
So,
lastly, it kicks your ass sometimes.
sometimes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Like, if you have to, need to be.
But that's the responsibility of it
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
You know. And you don't ever walk out to your community, or whatever type of community is, and put a question out there you don't want answered. Because you're gonna get an answer whether you want it or
You're
not.
gonna get
Yeah.
an opinion.
And I think we know that. We go there seeking that.
So,
Speak truth to
segues beautiful into why you should join G.A.L.S. So,
For community.
yeah. I don't want to be the one to say it all. What do you guys think? Why should they join G.A.L.S? Let's go ahead and go with that
Encouragement, support, camaraderie.
The great T-shirts.
question. Yeah.
Coming soon.
Well, and I think too, what G.A.L.S is all about is being real.
Mhm.
That it is a safe, talk about being a safe space. We really do. I know that gets kind of tossed around a lot, but we want to create a safe space for women to be able to not feel alone,
Mm-hmm.
to feel connection, to share the heaviness, but also share the fun. Like it's a balance. And I think that's one of the things we're really striving for in G.A.L.S, to provide the full spectrum.
Yeah.
And that's, it's tricky. It's been a tricky, journey to get there.
Yeah.
But I think we're starting to dial it in where we've got kind of something that meets all those points.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just excited for, as we're growing in this year. So.
Yay.
And I think it gives everyone an opportunity to pick and choose what they want. I mean, maybe this style of conversation is not your cup of tea. That's okay. We've got something else for you. And being well-rounded, I think, is one of the things that for me, G.A.L.S has offered is you can, and again, it is very much how much you put in, you get out. But there's options. It's not a one size fits all.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For me, I feel like because we all come from different backgrounds and different communities and so forth, and everyone brings something different to the table, and I've been able to take something from everyone within the community, our group, and the group growing, and apply it in different ways, and then see myself in growth, and then in doing that with that outcome, have it then be returned and then re-supported and then be lifted up higher. So
That's awesome.
It's interesting how different we all are. We all do come,
Yeah.
but it's funny to me how much there's the similarities too, and that connection, so that you can be different and yet connected.
Yes.
Yeah. So
So
join
join
G.A.L.S.
G.A.L.S.
So I was going to say, join
Join
G.A.L.S.
G.A.L.S.
right now.
All right.
Right down, right there.
Anything else anyone wants to add before we wrap up?
I think just join G.A.L.S.
Join G.A.L.S.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the really the
And
conclusion
let us
here.
know
Join
also, like,
What do you want in a
what
community?
do you want in a community too? Share with us what you want in a community.
Yeah. So with that, please like or subscribe. We would love to have you join us in the Facebook group of G.A.L.S. And please do answer the questions for yourself. We would love to hear you. We will interact with you. So please definitely join us. And we'll see you next time.
Hey.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.